21. Look how we shot at it. Oh, Amanda, what you got?
So one of the things I wanted to bring out is, we talk about in verse 28 that if an ox gores a man and woman, they should die. But look at what else is said, that the flesh of that animal should not be consumed. So that lets you know that at one time they were also considered a food source.
Doesn't cover it in the document.
Right back in verse 7, and it said male or female, so he sells his daughter as a female slave and shall not go out as the male slaves do. So the slavery is still ownership. So is there a distinction between a servant and a slave? That's what I'm trying to understand. Because it doesn't, the language changes. Of course, it says servant later, but I'm asking just to see if there's a distinction, because it is ownership. So you have either purchased or own. I was telling Gail that in some African cultures, they take slaves just because they fought a battle and you are the people that were the enemies that got defeated, and so you belong to us now. That's a form of slavery. So in some places you will buy a slave, as in, I think Joseph's case, was he purchased? Was Joseph purchased? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, you buy somebody and make them your slave. But are they the same thing? Like, you're my slave, you're my servant.
So you're saying in verse 2 it says, if you buy a Hebrew servant, he shall serve 6 years. Then are you asking if that's the same as verse 7? The man sells his daughter?
Absolutely. And later on, when we're talking about servants, those laws that are those determinations about servants in verse the ones that we were just talking about, what verses were they?
I think it looks like might be a different word. I didn't look up, check my notes, but I think they're talking about the same type of thing. They're
Servant, slave, synonymous?
In this passage, yes, I think so. Anybody else? It's the same word.
Yeah, in the case of Joseph, remember from the beginning, Joseph was kidnapped, and therefore kidnapping had a penalty with it. It could be death, depending upon the situation. And so Joseph, like I said, that was kidnapping when concerning Joseph. But concerning slaves, slaves could be the booty or the capture of a war. This generally happened, as the nation of Israel went into the land of Canaan. Those that they captured were made into slaves, but there were slaves that had rights. And then some people sold themselves into slavery because if their family was in debt, people paid off their debts. And the way they would pay it off was to indenture themselves into slavery to pay that debt off.
All right, chapter 22. If a man steals an ox, I'm going to read in verse 1, steals an ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If the thief is found breaking in and he is struck so that he dies, there shall be no guilt for his bloodshed. If the sun has risen on him, there shall be guilt for his bloodshed. He shall make full restitution. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the theft is certainly found alive in his hand, whether it is an ox or donkey or sheep, he shall restore double. If a man causes a field or vineyard to be grazed and lets loose his animal and it feeds in another man's field, he shall make restitution from the best of his own field and the best of his own vineyard. If fire breaks out and catches in thorns, so that stacked grain, standing grain, or the field is consumed, he who kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. If a man delivers to his neighbor money or articles to keep, and it is stolen out of the man's house, if the thief is found, he shall pay double. If the thief is not found, then the master of the house shall be brought to the judges to see whether he has put his hand into his neighbor's goods. For any kind of trespass, whether it concerns an ox, a donkey, a sheep, or clothing, or any kind of lost thing, which another claims to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whomever the judges condemn shall pay double to his neighbor. If a man delivers to his neighbor a donkey, an ox, a sheep, or any animal to keep, and it dies, is hurt, or driven away, no one seeing it, then an oath of the Lord shall be between them both, that he has not put his hand into his neighbor's goods, and the owner of it shall accept that, and he shall not make it good. But if in fact it is stolen from him, he shall make restitution to the owner of it. If it is torn to pieces by a beast, then he shall bring it as evidence, and he shall not make good what was torn. If a man borrows anything from his neighbor, and it becomes injured or dies, the owner of it not being with it, he shall surely make it good. But if its owner was with it, he shall not make it good. If it was hired, it came for its hire. If a man entices a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he shall surely pay the bride price for her to be his wife. If her father utterly refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money according to the bride price of virgins. You shall not permit a sorceress to live. Whoever lies with an animal shall surely be put to death. He who sacrifices to any god except the Lord only, he shall be utterly destroyed. You shall neither mistreat a stranger nor oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If you afflict them in any way, and they cry at all to me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath will become hot, and I will kill you with the sword. Your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. If you lend money to any of my people who are poor among you, you shall not be like a moneylender to him. You shall not charge him interest. If you ever take your neighbor's garment as a pledge, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down, for that is his only covering. It is his garment for his skin. What will he sleep in? And it will be that when he cries to me, I will hear, for I am gracious. You shall not revile God, nor curse a ruler of your people. You shall not delay to offer the first of your ripe produce and your juices. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. Likewise you shall do with your oxen and your sheep. It shall be with its mother 7 days. On the 8th day you shall give it to me, and you shall be holy men to me. You shall not eat meat torn by beasts in the field. You shall throw it to the dogs. All right. How much would a caught thief have to pay for an ox? A caught thief. Verse 20, chapter 22. For an ox. 5 oxen. That's right. What about a sheep? 4 sheep. And that goes back to a point that was made. It talks about the importance of oxen over other animals. Pretty important for that community. What would happen if an owner catches a thief breaking in his house and kills him? Nothing? It's nothing if what? If it was at what time of the day? At what time of the day? That's right. But if the what? In the daytime. That's right. So evidently, why do you think the difference is? What's the difference? So is it okay for someone to break in your house? Oh, no, I'm sorry, not you. No, don't take this personally. This is in this time. Would it be okay for someone to break in the house in the daytime? And you kill them back then? Yeah, I think so. I think there is a. Verse 2 says, if the thief is found breaking in, verse 3, if the sun is risen on him, there shall be guilt for his bloodshed. He should make full restitution. It's talking about the person that killed the thief. Who is God protecting there? The owner? Somebody said both. I hear you. Let me read it again. Let's read it slow. Let's read it slow. I'm going to start at verse 2. If the thief is found breaking in and he is struck so that he dies, there shall be no guilt for his bloodshed. Everybody got that, right? Okay, all right. If the sun has risen on him, and it goes back to the same case before, there shall be guilt for his bloodshed. He should make full restitution. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold. Correct.
So if the thief is killed breaking in, there's no guilt. But if the sun rises, if he's still alive the next day, then the thief has to make full restitution. If the thief doesn't have anything, then he's sold for his stuff.
The first,
The thief is still alive.
if he's killed in the first sentence, though.
If he's killed,
In the first sentence,
yeah, if he's killed, then there's no problem.
there shall be guilt for his bloodshed.
Uncle Charlie.
In verse 2, it says, if a thief be found breaking in and be smitten that he died, there shall be no bloodshed for him. So there's no guilt for killing a thief breaking in. But if the sun be risen upon him, if the thief is still alive, there shall be bloodshed for him, for he should make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. So the thief is still alive. He's going to be sold for his theft if he can't make restitution.
What's the bloodshed?
I think that is guilt. There's, I don't know. It sounds like the thief is still alive.
Yeah, I think there's a period after bloodshed. So if he dies in the daytime, this is what I'm reading, you should just shoot thieves if you think he's not trying to kill you. But he should make full restitution. If he has nothing, then he should be sold. That's the way I'm reading it, that he got killed. But if he didn't get killed, then that second part.
How can he make restitution if he's dead?
That's a different case. He didn't get killed. So in the first one, he died. I got you. So why would there be guilt for his bloodshed? What you got, Josh? You're looking at me funny. Yeah, so this read it how you want to, but if the sun has risen on him, there shall be guilt for his bloodshed. So I think if he's alive, I'm sorry, if it's in the daytime and there's guilt for the bloodshed, he dies. And he should make full restitution.
Charlie, if the way that you're if the way that you're explaining it or reading it, saying that, I think what you're saying is if you kill him and it's dark, then you're okay with it. And if you kill him once the sun comes out or once it's light, then it'll be a problem for you killing him. Is that what you're saying?
Let me read it out of these guys.
Okay.
However, this is what these guys say. This is just another person. This is just another guy. All right. However, if the householder killed the thief after the sun had risen, there would be blood guiltiness on his account. Being guilty of the blood of the dead thief made the owner of the house subject to capital punishment. The difference between the two cases lies in the fact that a thief could not be seen at night. The owner of the house could not judge his intentions to know whether the intent was to steal or to murder. He had the right to defend himself and his family with deadly force. However, after the sun had risen in the light of the day, the householder could see what the thief was doing, recognizing him as a thief, not as a potential murderer. The owner of the house had no authority to kill him. This law taught the right of an Israelite to defend himself, even with deadly force, if he seemed likely to be killed. It also upheld the value of the thief's life, which took precedence over property. According to the law of Moses, the life of a person, even a thief, was worth more than any possession. Now, that's just another guy said that, just another guy, okay? That's what he said. Yes, Walter.
If you don't, real quickly, if you look at the context of all the verses in conjunction with someone is responsible for making restitution. And in every case, it's the thief. In every case, in the various examples that Moses gives, it's the thief who has to make restitution. And going back to the subject of verse 3, if it is indeed as the commentary states, that means the owner of the house will end up getting sold to recompense the thief for stealing that he shouldn't have killed because it was daylight. So basically, someone breaks into my house in the daytime, and if I so happen to kill him, I'm gonna be sold to make restitution because I don't have enough money to pay for what? Him stealing my stuff? You know, I think it's actually a good lesson on, you know, hermeneutics and commentaries and how to study and take what, because I'm sure you could come up with other commentaries that would be in dire position, you know, to that and be in line with what Sherry said. Because verse 3, if you read it through, someone is going to be sold if they don't have enough money. And usually thieves are cast in that light. And it's again the thief making restitution, like all the other verses, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the various situations. It's the thief who has to make restitution.
Yeah.
The way I'm looking at it, even if the thief dies, the body can still be sold. Even though that sounds incredibly outlandish, if he's dead, he can't pay.
He did pay with his life.
Right.
For Charlie. One of the things that, you know, helps me with, I know on how to study the Bible, this is one of the things we talked about. Yeah. Sometimes reading it in a different translation helps. I know sometimes with the King James Version, you know, you're reading it and you're expecting it to sound one way, but a newer translation, just reading this, it says, if a thief is caught in the act of breaking in and he is beaten to death, no one is guilty of bloodshed. And then in verse 3 he says, but if this happens after sunrise, the householder is guilty of bloodshed. A thief must make a full restitution. If he is unable to pay, he is to be sold, he himself the thief, because of the theft. And so reading it in the CSB, you know, really sheds a lot more understanding than some of the older translations do.
Y'all clear?
Yeah, can I say something? I just want to say that verses 2 and 3 are very, very explanatory. From my understanding, if the person goes to steal before sun rises, when it's dark, night, and in the process of that stealing, of course, the owner of the house will try to defend himself. So in the process of defending yourself and, when the stealing is going on, you kill that person that time. You will not be guilty of the person's blood. Then 3 is telling us if the person managed to be alive, is daylight, sun rising, he was not killed in the process. So if you kill that person that time, you will be guilty. The best thing from this, my understanding in verse 3, is that the person has to find something to pay restitution. And if you don't have that money, the person will be out of that clan by being sold out. I think that's what it's just saying.
Yeah. And, just to talk a little bit more about it, we got a minute and a half. So we won't go on to anything else. But you see there's no guilt in verse 2 and guilt in verse 3. Who does that guilt apply to? And it's both of those, I believe, are the owner. And then, and so that's just, the way I'm reading it. But, man, one of the great things about the Bible is read it for yourself. Okay. What else before we move on? Go ahead, Walter. What you got? Say it, Walter. Walter, say it.
It's worth us studying it. Maybe we can visit.
Y'all want to hear what Walter had to say? Come on, Walter.
I don't think it's going to solve anything. Sorry.
All right, well, guys, have a good night. We'll see you on Sunday morning, Lord willing. And get in verse 4. That's crazy.